Not many people. Good evening. My name is Scott Dirks, and I'm the municipal judge for the city of Stoughton and the towns of Dunkirk, Pleasant Springs, and Rutland. The city of Stoughton will appear in all matters this evening by Attorney Isaac Brodke. Before I begin calling cases, I want to go over some of the procedures we'll follow tonight and some of your rights as defendants. Excuse me. These procedures are also set forth on the form that was made available to you as you entered the courtroom. First, please turn off your cell phones. Second, this hearing is for initial appearances on the citations you received. This is not the time for a trial or telling me your side of what happened. When your case is called, please come up to the podium up here and remember to speak clearly. These proceedings are being recorded, so you need to answer questions verbally and not by nodding or shaking your head. Tonight, I'll ask you to enter a plea to the citation you were issued. Your plea options are not guilty, no contest, or guilty. A plea of guilty means that you admit you did whatever it is you're charged with. A plea of no contest means that while you do not admit doing anything unlawful, you do not wish to contest the matter. In many cases, Mr. Brodke will be in a position to make you an offer to resolve your case right here tonight. If you do arrive at such an agreement, you should enter a plea of guilty or no contest. Either way, guilty or no contest, I will find you guilty. I'll then review the facts of your case to determine whether there is a basis for accepting your plea, and we'll give you an opportunity, if you wish, to tell me anything you feel is relevant to my decision. I'll then impose a forfeiture. A forfeiture is a money penalty and can be anywhere from $20,000 to $10,000, though the vast majority will be in the range of $50,000 to $200,000. I'm also required to impose court costs, which will increase the total amount you must pay. I'll automatically give you 30 days to pay your forfeiture. But if you think you'll need more time than that, please let me know right away and we'll set up a payment plan. Failure to timely pay your forfeiture can result in suspension of your driver's license or referring the matter for debt collection. If you plead not guilty, I'll schedule your case for a pretrial conference with the city attorney, and that will be over the phone. At that time, you can discuss your case with him and see if your case can be resolved without a trial. If it cannot be resolved, I'll schedule the matter for a trial. You do have the right to have an attorney represent you in your case, but you must hire that attorney on your own. The State Public Defender's Office will not represent you. You also have the right to ask me for a continuance of your case if you need to consult with an attorney or for some other reason. Any of you who are charged with operating while intoxicated or a related offense have the right to a jury trial in circuit court in Madison. However, you must post jury fees within 10 days of the date of your plea. Trials on all other offenses will be heard by me, and you will have the right to appeal any decision I make in your case. Those of you who are charged with traffic offenses should bear in mind that in addition to having to pay a forfeiture if you're found guilty, the Division of Motor Vehicles may also impose demerit points against your license. If 12 or more points are assessed against your license in any 12-month period, your driving privileges will be suspended for a period of time. If you hold a probationary license, those points may be doubled. And finally, if your address changes at any time while your case is pending, you must notify the court in writing within 5 days of such a change. I'll call the first case, which is City versus Dominic Andrus. Mr. Andrus, is your last name spelled A-N-D-R-U-S-S?
Correct.
And you still live on West Street in Stoughton?
Correct.
You're charged with speeding on a public highway, by 16 miles per hour over the posted limit. Do you understand the nature of the charge?
Yes.
And does the city have an offer for the defendant tonight?
Yes, Your Honor. The city is willing to amend the citation to 9 over, bearing a 3-point deduction and $98.80 forfeiture.
Sir, do you understand the offer the city's making you?
Yes.
Do you want to accept that offer?
I do accept this offer.
All right, and then how do you plead?
Guilty.
I will amend the citation as moved by the city to allege speeding by 9 over. I'll impose a forfeiture and costs of $98.80. Do you need more than 30 days to pay that?
No, I can pay it today.
Okay. Hang on a second, we'll give you a copy of the judgment, and that will include instructions on how you can pay the forfeiture. Okay? Questions on anything?
No.
All right, and for the record, I have reviewed the citation. I do find a factual basis for accepting your plea. Oh, that's okay. I think I'm all right. Thank you. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, you're free to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
And City versus Robert Smith.
It's okay.
Mr. Smith, do you live on Day Tripper Drive in Madison?
Yes, sir.
You're charged with speeding on a public highway by 16 miles per hour over the posted limit. Do you understand the nature of that charge?
Yes, sir.
Does the city have an offer?
The city is willing to amend it to 9 over, 3 points, $98.80.
Do you understand the city's offer?
Yes, sir.
Then how do you plead?
Guilty.
All right. I do find a factual basis for your plea. I will find you guilty of speeding by 9 miles per hour over the posted limit. I'll impose a forfeiture and costs totaling $98.80. Do you need more than 30 days to pay that?
I can pay it today, sir.
Okay. Hang on a minute. We'll give you a copy of the judgment, and that will include instructions on how to pay.
Yes,
Okay?
sir. Okay.
Questions on anything?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, with that, you're free to go.
Have a good day.
Have a good evening. City versus Hayden Abing. Mr. Abing, is your first name spelled Hayden?
Yes, sir.
Last name Abing?
Yes, sir.
And do you still live on Haferman Road in Broadhead?
Yes, sir.
Sir, you're charged with speeding on a public highway by 17 miles per hour over the posted limit. Do you understand the nature of that charge?
Yes, sir.
Does the city have an offer?
The city would like to set this for a pretrial conference.
Okay. Do you understand what that means, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. And hang on a minute, and we'll give you written notice of the pretrial date and time. It'll be March 5th. Do you have a time? 4:30. At 4:30, is that going to go okay with your work schedule?
No, sir.
Okay. When do you finish work? Or I should ask, when do you work?
I'll actually be on vacation February 28th till March 6th.
It is just a phone conference.
Yeah, it's
so
a
you just
phone
call
It
in.
is just a phone conference?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that
Well,
gonna work?
I'll be in Mexico, so I don't know
Oh,
how
yeah.
I don't know how that will work.
Let's make it March 19th
Okay.
at 3:30.
That should work.
Okay, good.
Are you out of school by then?
I can take off. It'll be fine.
Okay.
I take off while at school, so.
Yeah, calling from Mexico is probably a bit much. It might work, but it might not.
Yeah, we've had some struggles with phone calls down there.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. City, I'll just call it City versus Jeffrey Heineke. There's no
Yeah.
appearance by the defendant,
So,
is there?
Jeffrey Heineke did appear earlier. The city's going to dismiss the citation. He
Okay.
provided proof of reinstatement or registration.
All right, I'll grant the motion to dismiss.
And then, Your Honor, there's also Christopher Rolfe.
Rolfe,
yeah.
R?
It's not even on that list,
Y-
because
Oh.
he had entered a not guilty plea by phone.
Oh.
But he misunderstood, he didn't have to appear, so he spoke
Do
to
I-
the city
But,
Do I
attorney.
have
the,
anything?
the city, it's it's a failure to register insurance. He has since done that. He provided proof of that, so the city would dismiss it
Okay,
anyway.
I'll order it dismissed then.
Next one needs a transfer.
Right.
Them on the line.
Welcome to Language Line Solutions. Please enter your 6-digit client ID. For Spanish, press 1. Please enter access code followed by the pound sign.
City versus Idelmo, Joel Leon. Come up here.
For Spanish, this call may be monitored for training and quality assurance purposes. I'm proud to serve you. I'm ready for your instruction.
This is Judge Scott Dirks with the City of Stoughton Municipal Court. And do I have a certified Spanish-English interpreter on the phone?
Yes, you do.
All right, could you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony, wrong one. Do you solemnly swear that you will interpret truly, accurately, completely, and impartially, follow all court guidelines for interpreting and discharging all duties of an official court interpreter interpreting from Spanish into English and from English into Spanish?
I swear.
All right. I do have the defendant in court, and I will ask the interpreter to interpret everything out loud so that the defendant can hear everything the court is saying.
Yes.
Mr. Leon, you're charged with retail theft.
Señor León, su intérprete se le imputa el cargo de robo al por mayor.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you are charged with taking property held out for sale by a merchant, in this case Walmart, and that you left the premises with the property without attempting to pay for it.
Se le acusa de tomar mercadería de un comercio, Walmart en este caso, salir del comercio sin hacer intento de pagar por dicha mercadería.
¿Puedo hablar?
May I speak?
Not just yet.
Todavía no.
Ok.
I am going to enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf.
Voy a ingresar una declaración de no culpable de su parte
so that you can discuss the matter with the city attorney over the phone.
para que usted pueda conversar sobre el asunto con el abogado por teléfono.
To see whether the matter can be resolved without a trial.
Para que este asunto pueda ser resuelto sin juicio.
Ok.
And Mr. Brodkey, you'll have an interpreter available?
señor Bradkey va a tener un intérprete disponible.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you hear what the city attorney said, interpreter?
This is Zipper speaking. I was not able to.
Oh,
Sorry. Yes, Your Honor.
Sí, su señoría.
okay. Mr. Leon, is that okay with you?
Señor León, ¿está de acuerdo?
Con respecto a qué, o sea, que lo que se está hablando, o sea, yo me declaro inocente de lo que me están acusando.
In regards to what is it about what I'm being accused of? I mean, I declare myself innocent about what I'm being accused of.
Sure. And that's fine. But I'm still going to enter a plea of not guilty for you. And I will ask you to call the city attorney on the phone to see if the case can be resolved or if we have to set it on for trial. Do you understand?
Estoy ingresando una declaración de no culpable por usted. Quiero que usted hable con el fiscal de la ciudad para ver si este asunto se puede resolver sin necesidad de ir a juicio o si van a preferir que haya juicio. ¿Entiende?
Send him a Spanish translation.
I'm sorry, is that okay?
Ok.
Okay. And I
Yes,
should have
but-
asked, I'm sorry, before we go any further. Sir, do you still live on Pine Lake Drive in Madison?
Y tenía que haberle preguntado, señor, ¿usted vive todavía en Pine Lake Drive en Madison?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
good. We're going to give you an English language version of the notice of pretrial conference, but we will mail one in Spanish to you.
Sí.
Vamos a darle una copia en inglés de lo que es la notificación prejuicio, pero le vamos a enviar una en español a su residencia por correo.
Aquí me van a llamar o yo tengo.
Why don't you ask me?
Will they call me or do I have to?
Okay.
Oh, you call him.
Usted lo va a llamar a él.
Ajá, y yo tengo que buscar un traductor. Yo no, o sea, no tengo a nadie de mi familia que hable inglés puro o español.
And do I have to look for a translator for myself? I don't have anyone in my family who speaks English and Spanish.
No. Mr. Bradkey will have an interpreter for you when you call
No,
him.
el señor Bradkey va a tener el intérprete para usted cuando usted llame.
Ok, le puedo hacer una pregunta al señor juez. No voy a tener problema hasta donde viene siendo el 3 de, no, esto viene el 5 de marzo es me va a llamar a el fiscal.
So would I have this question for the judge. So will I have any kind of issue? I mean, this is going to be on March 1st, so is the DA going to call me?
No, it should be on March 5th, right?
Yeah,
March 5th.
Marzo 5 sería.
And Mr. Bradkey, you need to call Mr. Bradkey. He will not call you.
Sí, y usted tiene que llamar al señor Bradkey. El señor Bradkey no lo va a llamar a usted.
Ajá, y ¿cuál es el teléfono? Es el 608-210-6310.
And what will be the phone number? Is that the 608-210-6310?
No, it's 608-405-9246.
Ujú.
Es el 405-9246.
Lo que yo voy a decir, se lo voy a decir todo al fiscal y el fiscal es el que me va a hacer las preguntas o yo tengo que volver aquí con el señor juez.
And so what I'm going to be telling, is that going to be to the DA, and then the DA is going to tell you, or do I have to come back here and tell that to the judge?
First of all, it's the city attorney, not the district attorney.
Bueno, es el fiscal de la ciudad, no es el fiscal del distrito, primero que nada.
And secondly, if the two of you resolve the case so that we will not have a trial, you won't have to come back to court.
Y después, si ustedes dos resuelven eso de manera que no tenga que regresar a juicio, entonces no tendría que volver a...
Sí, 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 yo lo que quiero es solventar esto porque, o sea, me están culpando injustamente porque realmente, o sea, yo trabajaba con la aplicación de Walmart y ellos checan que uno haga el pago, o sea, de cuando ya uno recoge la mercancía, o sea, trabajo haciendo compras y cómo me van a culpar injustamente de que yo estoy sustrayendo mercancía, si ellos, cuando yo voy a salir, ellos me revisan la mercancía para ver si yo no llevo un artículo que el cliente no haya pedido.
Yes, just that I being judged unfairly because I really work. I work with the Walmart app delivering purchases to the clients, and then when I'm exiting Walmart, they check my the merchandise to make sure that I'm not taking anything that has not been requested by the clients.
Sir, tonight is not the time to discuss the facts of the case.
Y señor, esta no es la fecha para hablar sobre los casos, sobre detalles del caso.
Okay? You discuss it with Mr. Brodkey, and if you want a trial, that's perfectly fine. It really is. But if you get it resolved with Mr. Brodkey, you won't have to come back to court, okay?
Entonces eso lo va a hablar con el señor Brodkey y sí, bueno, si usted quiere juicio está bien, pero si lo logra resolver con el señor Brodkey, directamente, no va a necesitar regresar a juicio, no va a necesitar regresar a corte.
Okay, do you understand?
¿Entiende?
Sí, sí, eso sí lo entendí, perfecto.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
No, gracias, que tenga bonita tarde al señor juez y a todos.
No, just thank you and have a great afternoon, everybody, and
Okay.
Mr. Judge.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bueno, linda tarde.
Thank you, interpreter.
Thank you for your service. Have a good night.
My computer's restarting for an update. It's ridiculous.
Can I call the next case?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not doing the print.
All right, City versus Jay Hansen. Mr. Hansen, your last name is spelled Hanson,
Correct.
and you live on County Road N?
Correct.
Sir, you're charged with speeding on a public highway by 20 miles per hour over the posted limit. Do you understand the nature of the charge against you?
Yes.
Mr. Brodkey, does the city have an offer for the defendant?
The city's willing to amend the citation to 15 miles per hour over. That bears a 4-point deduction, and we can reduce the forfeiture to $98.80.
Sir, do you understand the nature of the city's offer?
Yes.
And how would you like to proceed tonight?
No contest.
All right. Hang on a second. I do find a factual basis for your plea. I will find you guilty of speeding by 15 miles per hour over the posted limit. That's a 4-point offense. And I'll impose a forfeiture and costs totaling $98.80. Do you need more than 30 days to pay that?
No, sir.
Okay. Hang on.
I'm gonna have to send him the notice.
Oh, okay.
Computer's
The
really-
computer
No.
is slowing us down, so we will mail you a copy of the judgment, and that'll have directions on how to pay the forfeiture.
That can just be done at the counter at SPD, correct?
Can he pay on the way
Yeah,
out
they
tonight?
can look it up for you.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
great. Thank you.
go ahead. And if they can't, there'll be directions on there. I'm giving you 30 days automatically.
Yeah. No
Okay.
worries. No worries.
All right, thanks very much. Any questions?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, have a good evening.
Thank you.
And then,
Oh, Jack Anderson, he came after you were here. That's Jack Anderson.
I thought we had one more, don't we?
Nope. Well,
There was no 7. Okay, whatever. City versus Jack Anderson. Mr. Anderson, last name is spelled Anderson,
Yes.
and you still live on Koshkonong Road in Stoughton.
Yes.
You are charged with failure to keep a vehicle under control. Do you understand the nature of the charge?
Yes.
Does the city have an offer?
1 second, Your Honor.
Sure.
Your Honor, could I talk to the defendant
Yeah,
just briefly?
we've got time.
Yeah.
I tried to stop it.
It's okay. I mean, fortunately, we've only got a few people here
That's
tonight.
true. Usually stuff like this happens when the
Yeah, when
building
we
is
got
full,
20.
you know.
Wonder why it's so few.
None of them paid.
Yeah, true.
Which is nice.
Well, it's certainly easier.
Elections have been pretty heavy lately. I think around the holidays is always a problem.
Mm-hmm. Oh, on that retail theft, the Spanish-speaking guide, there doesn't look like there's.
Review and have them come in, so, now that I'm kind of catching on to how you're doing it,
Oh.
I won't schedule it on an adult night, so.
Well, here, let's
I can
finish
tell-
with this
yeah,
gentleman
I
and
just
then
don't
we'll
want
figure it out.
TV.
Okay, Mr. Bradkey.
Your Honor, I think we're gonna set this one for a pretrial, if that's okay
Okay.
with the court.
That's fine.
Um,
Sir, I'll enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. We'll schedule this for a pretrial on March 5. Do we have a time for him?
Um, 4:40?
Yeah, and on that point, the defendant expressed that timing might not work at that time, but I told him that we'd work it out and
Okay.
connect at a different time.
Okay.
I'll send him the notice.
All right, we'll mail you notice. But if you wanted to get Mr. Bradkey's phone number or email or something, that's
All right.
probably a good idea.
I can do that.
Let's see if that was.
I don't, but I can give him the back of his form, his all
The number of pages. And if I don't reach it, this is my paralegal.
All
So either-
right, that's your number?
Yes,
Okay.
and then that's.
Okay.
Okay, so questions about anything?
I think that's about it. Would you be able to maybe have this figured out by this Friday? I could call you on Friday and make that happen. Or do you need more time?
Just, let's talk on Friday.
All right.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, have a good evening then.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Sir, in the back, are you here for a 5 o'clock?
No, there were 6.
What's your name, sir?
Darrell Kugler.
What's the name?
He's Your Honor, I believe he's a witness for the trial.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
All right, sit tight. We won't be calling that case for a while yet. So,
Are we adjourned or are we still in it?
with regard to the 5 o'clock initial appearances, for all those matters that I did not call, I will impose judgment by default, and as in for disposition, I will order forfeiture and costs in the amount listed on the citations. Some have already posted their bond or paid their forfeiture and costs. All others, I will give them 30 days to pay. If they want to try to set up a payment plan to get more time than that, they will have to contact my clerk in writing with that request. Does the city have anything further on the 5 o'clocks?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And then we had one other matter at 6 o'clock besides the
Andy
trial?
Mitchell,
Okay, yeah, I'll call that. City versus Bambi Mitchell was set for a status conference, 6 o'clock today, in order for her to provide the city with proof that she'd obtained insurance. She was initially charged with operating a motor vehicle without insurance. Mr. Brodkey, do you know anything about that?
I have not been contacted by the defendant. I
All
know
right.
nothing.
Given that, then, it's 2 minutes after 6. She is not here. I will impose judgment by default. I'll order a forfeiture and cost totaling $124, and I will give her 30 days to pay that. Anything further from the city on that?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And then we have one case scheduled for trial at 6 o'clock this evening, and that's City versus Pinkston. Is Mr. Pinkston here? All right. Mr. Brodkey, are we still headed for trial?
Yeah, I believe so.
Do you need time to speak with him?
Just a minute, second.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're on.
All right. Then, Mr. Pinkston, why don't you have a seat at council table here? Before we proceed with the trial, I need to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, do you still intend to have this matter tried by the court tonight?
Yes.
Nope, it was on. Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Yes? And I see that you're here alone, that you're not represented by an attorney in this matter?
That's correct,
Do you understand you have the right to hire an attorney to represent you?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And you've decided not to do that?
That is the truth, Your Honor.
So you've decided to go ahead without counsel tonight?
That is the truth, Your Honor.
All right. Then I want to explain a couple things about how the trial is going to work, because I assume you're not an attorney?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Just because you're not represented by an attorney doesn't mean that we're going to have a different set of rules. The rules that will govern this trial will be exactly those same rules that would apply if you were here with your lawyer representing you. So specifically, you will have to follow the rules of evidence, and those are listed in statute. The way this is going to work is this. I will initially give the city an opportunity to make a brief statement as to the facts of this case. If you want to give a statement along those lines after that, you're certainly welcome to. The city will then call its witnesses. It looks like the city may have 2 witnesses.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Each of those witnesses will be questioned by Mr. Brodkey. If you object to any of the questions he's asking, you have to say objection. I will then rule on whether or not the witness is required to answer that question. Do you understand?
I understand, Your Honor.
You'll then have an opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses. That means asking questions. It does not mean arguing with them. If they give an answer that you don't like, you don't get to argue with them. Okay? Do you understand?
I understand, Your Honor.
Sir, this is a serious matter. Do you understand that?
I understand, Your Honor. I'm
Okay.
just a very bubbly person. I apologize for smiling.
No, smiling is fine. Just want to make sure that we're observing appropriate decorum here. After the city presents its witnesses, you can present any witnesses that you want. If you don't have any, but you want to testify on your own behalf, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. I'm not going to ask you to question yourself and then answer yourself. You'll just be able to testify in a narrative format. Mr. Brodkey then can cross-examine you if you testify. You don't have to testify. At the close of evidence, Mr. Brodkey will have an opportunity to tell me what facts he believes he's put into evidence and how those facts relate to the law. You'll have an opportunity to do the same thing. I will make findings of fact and render a verdict. Now, sir, you are charged with an unsafe lane deviation. That means, pursuant to section 346.13 sub 1 of the Wisconsin statutes as adopted by the Stoughton Municipal Code, that the operator of a vehicle shall drive as nearly as practicable entirely within a single lane and shall not deviate from the traffic lane in which the operator is driving without first ascertaining that such movement can be made with safety to other vehicles approaching from the rear. That's what the city will have to prove. Their burden is to prove to me, but to the court, all facts in support of that violation by clear, convincing, and satisfactory evidence. Do you understand that?
I understand, Your Honor.
All right, then. Is the city ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Do you want to make a statement to the court, then?
Sure, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is not a particularly complicated case. The evidence is going to show that there was a crash at an intersection of Page Street and what I believe to be County B, at which Mr. Coolby comes to a complete stop to turn left onto the highway, and the defendant drives and ends up hitting him in the rear as Mr. Coolby is trying to escape the incoming accident by going into the ditch. In doing so, I will come back at closing and explain why that is a unsafe lane deviation in violation of Wisconsin law and the city ordinance adopting and such.
Thank you. And sir, do you wish to make an opening statement as to the facts that you believe will be presented to the court?
Yes, Your Honor. It's easier to stop at 20 miles an hour than it is 60.
Okay. Does the city want to call any witnesses then?
Sure, Your Honor. The city calls Daryl Coolby to the stand.
Sir, you can come on up here to the witness stand. And let me just, yeah, thank you, Mr. Bailiff. All right, before you take a seat, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please be seated.
Thank you, sir.
And please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Daryl Kubley, Daryl. Last name Kubly.
Thank you. Mr. Brodkey, your witness.
Good evening, Mr. Coolby. Thanks for being here tonight. Mr. Coolby, what do you do for a living?
I'm a over-the-road truck driver.
And how long have you done that?
I've been driving for 30 years.
And what did you do before that?
Well, I was in the military and I was an officer.
A police officer, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Coolby, do you remember being in Stoughton on August 20th, 2024?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember anything happening at around 9 p.m.?
Yeah, I was involved in a traffic accident.
Okay. Where were you driving to?
I was going home from work.
And could you walk us through a little bit the events leading up to the crash?
I returned home. Well, I left work. I was heading home on Page Street, and I was making a left turn onto County B. I stopped at the stop sign. It's kind of a hidden turn. There's some trees and foliage in the way. I looked, I didn't see any traffic coming. I proceeded to make the turn. As I was making the turn, I saw headlights coming. I didn't know if I saw them when they came over the small rise there or if they just appeared. I accelerated to clear the lane. As I cleared the lane and got into my travel lane, the headlights were still in front of me in my lane. So I turned to go into the ditch to avoid the vehicle. I was 3/4 of the way into the ditch when I was struck at a glancing blow on the left rear quarter of my truck.
And maybe taking a step back, have you driven that path home before?
Yeah, every day for, well, twice a week for 5 years.
And did you come to a complete stop at the stop sign?
Yes, I did.
Did you look both ways?
Yes, I was stopped for a fair amount of time.
How long do you think?
Probably 30 to 60 seconds.
And when you were scanning, did you see any vehicles?
No, I did not. I hate that corner. Always have. I think just my personal opinion, I think the traffic pattern on B, I don't think 55 mile an hour in a residential zone is necessary. And it's, like I said, it's a blind corner. There's some foliage there, and you're coming on, there's a big hill that you're popping over.
And fair to say you're familiar with the area?
Yes.
Okay. And I would like to show you.
Thanks.
Right there. So, Mr. Colby, I have in front of you, excuse me, what do I have in front of you?
You have a diagram of where Page Street intersects with County B.
And is that where you stopped on Page Street at that point?
Yes, I stopped on Page Street to turn left onto B.
And then, do you mind, just for illustrative purposes, could you draw where you pulled out and ended up? Actually, let's start. Could you draw where you pulled out?
Yeah, I was turning left, so I was 3/4 of the way through my left-hand turn when I noticed the headlights that I had seen. When I started pulling out, I didn't see anything. Then I saw the headlights, so I kind of sped up. I had plenty of time to continue the turn. And as I was continuing the turn, I noticed the headlights were in my lane coming head on at me. So I hit the accelerator. I knew stopping wasn't going to help. I hit the accelerator and I started putting my truck in the ditch to avoid it. When I was actually struck, I'm sure the officer has pictures of it, I do too. My rear tires were on the ditch side of the fog line of the road. The fog line is the white line that is the edge of the pavement. So I was completely, the front 3/4 of my truck was completely in the ditch when I was struck.
Could you mark on there where you think you were in the ditch?
I was in the ditch probably about 30, 40 yards from Page Street. So I was in the ditch at kind of an angle, and I was hit at a glancing blow. I was hitting the left rear axle, left rear quarter panel, and left rear bumper.
And you mentioned this car. Do you recall what type of car it was?
I was a Lexus, I do believe.
And
I only know that afterwards because the tow truck went by.
Sure. And was that, what lane of traffic was that in?
When I originally saw him, he was in his travel lane, so it would have been, I don't know north-south. Let's just map it. He was heading from 51 on B towards County N.
Okay.
And he would have been in his travel lane when I...
On the right hand of the road?
Yeah, he would have been, in the proper lane of traffic when I first saw him.
Yep.
And then as I continued the turn, I looked, I was turning, and as I straightened out, or starting to straighten out, I looked, and he was in my lane.
And that would be the lane normally for oncoming traffic?
No, it would be for my travel
Where
lane.
your car would have been?
Right.
So the wrong lane?
Correct. He would have been in the left lane from the direction he was traveling.
Understood. And Mr. Colby, that was in the city of Stoughton?
Yes.
Dane County, Wisconsin?
Yeah, kind of a border thing.
Did they, after the accident, did you talk to the person who hit your car?
Yeah, I was in the ditch. I had got out of the ditch. He had traveled quite a ways down the road, probably, say, a half a mile or so. I had got my vehicle back up on the edge of the road and was getting out of my truck when the defendant come running up. And he seemed a little shook, but had his wits about him. And he asked me if I was okay. I asked him if he was okay. I said, we need to call the sheriff's department or the police department, which I did immediately after that. The only thing he said to me was he asked me if I was okay, and I said, yeah, I'm fine. And he said, I'm sorry, I was monkeying with my headlights. So I don't know if he had his headlights off, and then that's why I didn't see him, or, like I said, there's a couple of different things.
Did you sense that the car was traveling quick?
I felt that it was traveling, the speed limit through there is 55. I'm not an expert. I drive for a living. I would say he was going somewhere between 60 and 62.
So faster than the speed limit?
Yes, faster than, above the speed limit.
Your sense. So just so I have the timeline right, before the police come, you get your car out of the ditch?
Yeah, I actually took my car out of the ditch and turned it back facing the way he was going and got it off to the side of the road to try to keep both lanes of traffic open.
And so, Your Honor, I'm going to move to admit the exhibit as marked by the defendant.
Are we talking about Exhibit 1?
Exhibit 1.
Do you have any objection to that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I will receive it into evidence.
And then, Mr. Cooley, what did I put in front of you?
This is me taking a picture of the tire tracks on the side of the road. I'm assuming it was taken by the officer.
So, and you're the gentleman in the orange shirt?
Yes.
Okay. And I forgot to ask, is the defendant here today?
Yes, he is.
And could you describe what he's wearing?
Black jacket, white tennis shoes, black pants.
Okay, Your Honor, the record reflects that the defendant's been identified.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I will so find.
So, and then, Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibit 2 in evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
I'll receive it.
And so if I'm looking at this, Mr. Cooley, it looks like there's something in kind of gravel by the ditch. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, that is, the black part is a piece of my rear bumper.
When you were hit?
Yeah, the plastic cover off the center of my rear bumper.
Okay.
And then the tracks are where my truck was in the ditch.
Mr. Colby, I think that's all I have for you tonight. I'm going to sit down on this, but Mr. Pinkston might have some questions.
Sir, do you have any questions for the witness?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then you can step down. Is he excused from his subpoena?
He is. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Colby.
Thank you.
So, sir, you can, if you could give those to the bailiff, please. Or, no, I'm sorry, just leave them on the stand there.
Okay.
And you're free to leave if you'd like. If you want to stick around, you can stick around.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thanks. Your Honor, the City of Stoughton calls Officer Straub to the stand.
you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated. And then please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Brandon Straub, BRANDON STRAUB.
Thank you. Your witness, counsel.
Officer Straub, thank you for being here tonight. What do you do for a living?
I'm a police officer.
For whom?
The City of Stoughton Police Department.
How long you been that?
I've been here for approximately 3 years.
Okay. Before that, what'd you do?
I was a police officer in Broadhead for a year before that.
Let's go back another. What's the job you had before Broadhead?
I was an iron worker, a contractor, traveled all over the United States building buildings.
So when you started becoming a police officer at Broadhead, did you receive training?
I did.
Okay. Did you have training regarding traffic enforcement?
I did.
Are you familiar with traffic laws generally?
Yes.
And you've responded to accidents before, right?
Yes.
And if you had to guess, how many traffic-related offenses do you think you've responded to in your 4 years of being on the force?
It's a countless number. I couldn't put a number to that.
It's a regular thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And any training that you had related to traffic enforcement, you successfully completed, right?
Yes.
Were you on duty on August 20th, 2024?
I was.
Do you recall when you were on shift?
I don't recall the exact shift. I believe at that time it would have been a power shift, so probably somewhere about 7 p.m. to 3 a.m.
And so you think you were on duty around 9 p.m. that day?
Yes.
Okay. Did you respond to any accidents?
I did.
And are you familiar with the intersection of North Page and County B?
I am.
Okay. And on County B, if you're going, and I'll have to get my directions correct here, but if you're going east on County B, you're in the right-hand lane, is that right?
That's correct.
And if you're going west on County B, you're in the right-hand lane, I guess, but it's, point being, County B is not an exception. You know, if you're going one way, you're supposed to be in the right-hand lane.
Correct.
And if you're going the other way, you're supposed to be in the right-hand lane.
Correct.
And do you have a sense for what the speed limit is around there?
I believe it's 55 miles an hour.
And that's marked by a posted official sign?
Yes.
And that's in the city of Stoughton, right?
It is.
Dane County, Wisconsin?
Yes.
And there's a stop sign at that intersection, right?
There is at the northbound Page Street intersection going on to B.
And so if somebody wanted to turn west onto B, or left onto B, they would be heading west and they'd have to cross traffic. Is that right?
Correct.
Do you recall what time you arrived at the scene?
I do not.
Would say 9:20, 9:30ish make sense?
That would make sense.
And do you recall what types of vehicles were involved in the crash?
I do. There was a white older pickup truck and then a smaller sedan.
And did you talk to the driver of the truck?
I did.
Do you recall his name?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
Would Derek Coolby sound right?
Yes.
And did you, but regardless if you didn't know, you checked his driver's license presumably, right?
I did.
And did you identify the driver of the Lexus?
My partner that I was there with that night identified the driver of the Lexus. I also identified him by driver's license afterwards.
And that's the defendant in this case?
It is.
Okay. And that is Michael Pinkston, just to be clear.
Yes, sir.
So what did you notice when you got to the scene?
When I was at the scene, the first thing I noticed was to the east, down a few, I would say approximately 100 yards, the sedan was parked on the right-hand side of the road, and then the white truck on the west side of the intersection was also parked on the eastbound lane at that point. In the westbound lane, I observed tire marks and gravel going into the ditch, so that would be on the other side in the westbound lane.
And those tire marks and gravel going into the ditch, were were the tire marks going to the ditch, do you think that those were the trucks or the Lexuses?
I believe those were the trucks.
Okay. And did you see tire marks elsewhere on the scene?
There were tire marks on the westbound lane that appeared to me to be from the truck being pushed by the car during the accident.
In your experience in the forest, you know, do you think that a car would have to be going pretty fast to push a truck that way?
I do.
And so I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3. What is it?
Says the Lexus that was at the crash scene the night of the incident.
And it looks like it has damage to, could you describe what the damage looks like?
Yeah, it has damage to the driver's side front quarter panel and headlight area.
And
Thank you.
And so, Officer Shrub, I put Exhibit 4 in front of you. What is that?
This was the white pickup truck that was involved in the accident that night.
And so if we look at the damage, is that consistent with, excuse me, if we take a step back, I believe that you testified, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it was your impression that the white pickup truck was hit in the left driver's side.
Yes.
And the Lexus is hit, excuse me, the damage to the Lexus is in the left, or in the driver's side as well.
Correct.
In front.
Correct.
And where on the road was it your sense that this accident took place?
I believe it took place slightly west of the intersection in the westbound lane.
And the westbound lane would have been the wrong lane for, if you're going east on it, for the Lexus, that'd be the wrong lane.
Correct. That would be the opposite lane, the lane furthest away from Page Street.
So is it fair to say that, well, let me ask you this. In your opinion, if the driver did not deviate into the other lane, would there have been an accident?
I do not believe there would have been.
And do you have a sense for, based off the tire marks and everything, for how fast the Lexus may have been traveling?
Based on the tire marks, it's hard to say right there. I didn't see any tire marks from the Lexus, only the truck that was pushed out of the way. I believe from some of the video footage that I saw, the Lexus was traveling faster than the posted speed limit, but I cannot give a statement to how fast it would be.
But fair to say, it was going pretty fast.
Yes.
And did you think that, in your experience, is going into the wrong lane of traffic, is that a reasonably cautious decision?
It is not.
Was there, based off of your observations at the scene, was there any reason for the defendant to go into the other lane of traffic?
No, unless he was trying to turn out of the way of the truck that Mr. Colby was driving. But that is, in my opinion, what caused the accident.
And that puts, and it's fair to say when somebody deviates the lane of traffic, they're putting others at risk.
Yes.
They're driving on the road.
Yes.
Or may ultimately reach that accident spot.
Yes.
Officer Shrub, do you think that the defendant was exercising ordinary care when he went into the opposite lane?
No.
Officer Shrub, do you think it would have made more sense for the defendant to have, if he presumably was concerned about hitting another vehicle, to have gone into the ditch on the right side of the road?
Yes, I believe that to be accurate.
Do you think that the defendant put others, including Mr. Coolby, at risk by going to the wrong side of the road?
Yes.
And on that street, the road markers and everything are clearly delineated, right?
They are.
There's no, to an ordinary person, they'd be able to tell which lane to be in.
Yes.
Officer Schaub, I think that that's all I have for you tonight, but Mr. Pinkston might.
Sure.
Any questions?
No, you
Okay, officer, you're free. Is he released from his subpoena?
He is, Your Honor.
Okay, you're free to leave or stay as you wish.
Thank you.
Mr. Brodke, are you moving 3 and 4?
Oh, yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any objection to the court receiving those in evidence?
No, you
All right, I will receive them. Does the city have any further witnesses?
Your Honor, if the city might call Mr. Pinkston, but it turns on if he's going to testify himself.
Well, you'll have to make that decision right now whether you want to call him. Because if he doesn't
Yes,
testify,
right.
you can't call him as a rebuttal witness.
Yeah, completely understand. No, Your Honor, we'll rest.
Okay. And Mr. Pinkston, do you have any witnesses other than yourself that you'd like to call?
No, Your Honor. I would call God, but he can't say what he.
Yeah, let's refrain from the jokes, okay? And do you wish to testify on your own behalf?
I would love to.
Okay, come on up. Step right there. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please be seated. State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Michael Pinkston, MICHAEL-PINKSTON.
And what would you like to tell me about the facts of this incident?
Well, as the defendant would say,
You're the defendant.
or the person in the other incident on the other half, it's a hard stop to see, as well as what I was able to see was driving down the straight line, going 60 miles an hour, I do have to mention, so you guys are correct. This was stated in my testimonial when the officers came. Going one direction, my lights were on. They're fairly new headlights, as you can see in the photo, so there's no reason for them to be off or dimmed, especially at that time of night, on top of new tires. So I love that car, but it's gone now. Going one direction, I see a truck pull out in front of the stop sign, presumably not 30, 40 seconds, but a left-right and pull in front of me. Now, at this instance, obviously a car's coming into my lane. What is my thought process? I will get out of his way and avoid everything. It's kind of like if, I don't know, a boulder were to be in the way. Would I run straight into the boulder, or would I get out of the boulder's way? I just believe it's easier to stop if you're going 20 miles an hour than 60 miles an hour. That is all, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any questions for the defendant?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Pinkston, then you can sit back down. And just to be clear, you don't have any other witnesses you wish to call, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, have a seat. Mr. Brodke, what would you like to say, if anything, by way of a closing argument?
Your Honor, I started, and if I may, I'll stand. It's easier for me to project. Your Honor, I started saying this is a simple case. The evidence reveals it to be a simple case. Mr. Coolby comes to a stop on Page. He's going to turn left. He comes to a complete stop. There's no real dispute about that. And he's turning left, and in doing so, another car, which is traveling faster than the speed limit, is zooming down the eastbound lane. And at that instance, it's in the correct lane. But as Mr. Coolby sees the car approach him, it deviates into the wrong lane of traffic and ends up clipping Mr. Coolby as Mr. Coolby is going into the ditch. The entire accident happened within what was Mr. Kingston's, the lane he was not supposed to be in. Though the road is clearly delineated for which lanes to be in, there is no oddity about it that would mean that for some reason you could go into the oncoming lane of traffic as you please. The entire accident happens within that lane. When it comes to ordinary care and everything, yeah, accidents happen. And the reality is that it was not like a standalone boulder in the road, as Mr. Kingston said. For if it were, going left around it, would have been one thing. Or, as Officer Stroud mentioned, he could have just gone into the ditch. But instead, what it is that Mr. Cooley is turning left. He's going through the lane of traffic to get into his proper lane after coming to a complete and full stop. And instead of slowing down or going into the ditch or exercising anything that is ordinary care, Mr. Kingston made a decision to deviate. And there's a lot that goes on. These things are fast-paced and hindsight's 20/20. But the reality is that by going into the wrong lane of traffic, he clips Mr. Cooley, who is halfway in the ditch by the time that the accident happens. And that is not that's not safe. That is an unsafe lane deviation. That is not exercising ordinary care with respect to Mr. Cooley or anybody else on the road. There's been nothing presented to show otherwise. The mere fact that there's something that he had to pay attention to while driving doesn't give carte blanche authority for him to go in any which way he would like. And that's really the case. He had a lane to stay in. He decided to leave that lane, and in doing so, he ended up hitting Mr. Colby. That's why we're here. And it's entirely possible it's an accident, but that's the reality is that it demonstrates a lack of care in driving, and it is certainly a deviation in the lane. So that's all there is to say, and for these reasons, the court should find him guilty.
Thank you. Do you want to make a closing argument, sir?
It could.
Well, do you want to?
Yes.
Okay.
Unsafe lane deviation is the reason I'm here. If it was safe, I would stay in the lane traveling 60 miles an hour going one direction. But presumably there is a boulder there. If it was safe, I would get out of the way of the boulder and continue on my way. That's just all I have to say, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. The evidence that the court heard is as follows. At about 9 o'clock on the evening of August 20th, 24, this is according to Mr. Kubley. Mr. Kubley was headed north on Page Street. He stopped at the stop sign at the T intersection of Page Street and County B, did not see any vehicles approaching, and turned through the intersection left or westbound. Mr. Kubley has 30 years as a truck driver. He's a former police officer. Mr. Kubley stated that as he was getting into the westbound lane, he observed headlights of a vehicle coming at him head-on, and in order to avoid a head-on collision, went into the right-hand westbound ditch. And when his pickup truck was, as he testified, about 3/4 of the way into the ditch, the oncoming vehicle struck the driver's side rear quarter panel a glancing blow, causing the damage that is shown in Exhibit 4. Mr. Kubley stated that he was able to get his truck back out of the ditch, by which point the defendant, who had continued for some distance eastbound and then stopped, ran back to Mr. Kubley to see if he'd been injured in any way. He also testified that the defendant stated to him, quote, "I was monkeying with my headlights," period, close quote. Mr. Kubley estimated that the defendant was traveling in excess of the posted speed limit. Officer Straub of the City of Stoughton Police Department testified that the speed limit on County B in that area is 55 miles per hour, that when he came on the scene, he observed that the pickup truck driven by Mr. Kubley was back up out of the ditch along the side of the road, that it had the damage shown in Exhibit 4, that as nearly as he could tell from his observations of the scene, that the crash had occurred in the westbound lane of County Highway B, which is consistent with what Mr. Kubley testified to. He also testified that he saw no tire marks in the roadway from the defendant's vehicle, from which the court infers that the defendant did not make a sudden braking maneuver to try to avoid any collision. The defendant testified that he was traveling at 60 miles per hour on County Highway B at the time of the crash, that his lights were on, and that if there had been a boulder in the eastbound lane of County Highway B, which is the direction he was traveling, he would have swerved into the westbound lane to avoid it. The court has heard no testimony to the effect that there was a boulder in the eastbound lane of County Highway B. The court has stated what the elements are of the offense, that in essence a driver may not deviate from the driver's lane of traffic without first ascertaining whether such a movement can be made with safety to other vehicles. The court finds that the defendant's traffic maneuver in this case, was an unsafe lane deviation. The testimony that the court has heard, which is the only evidence that's in the record, is that while the defendant's headlights were on, he also told Mr. Kubley that he was monkeying with his lights at the time of the crash. There's nothing that the court has heard with regard to testimony as to why it was an appropriate traffic maneuver for the defendant to deviate from his lane of travel into the oncoming lane of travel. In fact, it's the court's opinion, based on the evidence in the record, that the defendant was not paying attention to what was going on and forced Mr. Kubley to drive into the ditch to avoid a collision, which he was unable to completely avoid the collision, but at least nobody was hurt. So I do find the defendant guilty by clear, satisfactory, and convincing evidence. Mr. Brodke, what's the city's position with respect to disposition?
Your Honor, it was originally issued for $98.80. The city believes that that forfeiture is appropriate, and that's 4-point deduction. And to the extent necessary, the city moves for judgment on the court's verdict.
Right. Mr. Pinkston, what do you think the court should do by way of disposition?
I'm unsure, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
I'm unsure.
Okay, well, you've been found guilty, so the only question right now is what penalty do I impose?
I could do the 97 or 98, whatever.
Okay. I will adopt the city's recommendation and impose a forfeiture and cost totaling $98.80. The Department of Motor Vehicles will levy any demerit points that are appropriate. That's not up to the court to do. We'll give you a copy of the judgment. Do you need more than 30 days to pay that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I will say, sir, the evidence that the court heard here certainly would have supported far more serious charges, like criminal charges. Negligent operation of a motor vehicle, that's a 9-month misdemeanor. Reckless endangerment, that could actually be a 5-year felony. So, all things considered here, you're lucky. You're lucky that nobody got hurt. You're lucky that you're not looking at a bigger penalty than $100 in fines and costs. You could be sitting in front of a circuit court judge right now who's trying to decide how much time to lock you up. So,
I gave him a copy of that.
okay, thank you. I'm just giving you a warning with respect to this, that if you don't start driving more carefully, not only are you possibly going to hurt yourself or others and do more damage to vehicles. You said you lost this car you loved. You could be looking at going to prison. Do you understand all that?
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay. My understanding is that you've been given written notice of your right to appeal my decision in this case. You have 20 days to make a decision as to whether or not you want to pursue an appeal. That information is in writing. Do you have any questions about anything?
How do I pay this $98?
That's on that yellow sheet. There's information on how to do that.
Is there a possibility to do that today?
Yes, you can pay on your way out of the building.
Very nice.
Mr. Brodke, anything more from the city?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, this matter's concluded. We'll see you later.
Thank you much, Your Honor.
I should be keeping your notes for trials.
Well, we've got a record.
Okay, all right, as long as you're.
Yeah, I don't think you need to.
Okay.
And I'll give you these.
Okay.
I'll give you the pen back. Mine ran out of ink. And that's it for tonight, right? Okay, we are adjourned.